Hi, I'm Femi OK and you're on the stream. Today, we're speaking with a man of many hats and fashions, comedian, aspiring politician and actor Eddie Izzard, who joins us to take your questions live. Comedian, actor, activist, these are just a few of the many labels for the award-winning Eddie Izzard. He's known for pushing boundaries that he's gained a sizable following since jumping into comedy back in the 1980s. Now, in his 20s, Eddie came out as a heterosexual transvestite and stirred things up by cross-dressing during his stand-up. Politically, he's known for campaigning against Scotland's September independence referendum. His nails are a tell-all sign for his staunch support of the European Union, and some have begun to criticise Eddie for using his comedy as a platform for his political leanings. But it's not always about heavy jokes. Take a look at this routine about friendly sharks.
Sharks are bad. Very few good sharks. Very few sharks going, "We found a child." He was thrashing around in that area of danger zone, you see. We thought we'd bring him in, yes. Well, it's a new thing we're doing. We're trying to... I'm in public relations, yes. I'm Sharky the Friendly Shark. Sharky the Friendly Shark. You've seen my program, maybe? No, he only had one leg to begin with, so I don't know what that is.
So now here in the United States on the most extensive comedy tour in the history of the world ever, well, that's what it says on the programme, performing his show Force Majeure, it's Eddie Izzard. Eddie, welcome to the stream.
Thank you.
Yes.
And yes, I claim it's the most extensive comedy tour because I think it is, and I can't, you know, quite physically, but I'm on the 24th country. America is the 24th country that I've played, and I think I'm going to get at least to 30 now, and there's more to come. But and I'm doing it in 4 languages at the moment, so that's why I claim that. And then when people, if someone says actually it's not, then you can say, well, then it's not. And how many did they play? Then I just try and get more than them.
Right, but no one's challenged you right now, right?
No one's challenged it. Like Hollywood Bowl, when I played Hollywood Bowl, I claimed I was the first solo comedian to play the whole night at the Hollywood Bowl.
I don't think that was right. What about
Robin
was true. Williams?
No, they'd all done guest acts, and Richard Pryor done a guest act. You know, they come on and done 20 minutes in someone else's evening or a big benefit evening. I took the whole night, did the whole thing.
You know, we're still in the introduction, Eddie.
I know. I'm just trying
We're in trouble.
I'm just trying to say that's why I said it.
Yes. And we will get to the main conversation. We're going to start it in just a moment. But first, I have to introduce our digital producer, Malika Bilal. She'll be bringing in all of your live comments in between Eddie chatting. Well, Malika.
He's the main reason we are here, of course. Today. So I'm excited for it. Now, of course, for those of you at home, you can always tweet in your questions and comments using hashtag AJStream. But today, we also have a few members of our community in a Google Plus Hangout. They're ready to chat with Eddie. Chris Roden is a law student at the University of Glasgow.
Hello.
Lawyer, hi, and blogger Nisma Baig. Writer, actor, comedian Zahra Norbash. And blogger Michael Clark. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the stream.
Hello.
So, Eddie, I'm going to start on my laptop. I'm going to show our audience a little clip of you. This is New York. This is Madison Square Garden. Have a look at this.
Should I see things through the screen?
Madison Square Garden! New York City!
So, Eddie, I'm stopping it right here. That feeling, to me, I'm watching that and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, you've made it. Was that a I've made it moment, or was there something else that happened before then?
I felt the I've made it moment was when I could walk into the cafe at Covent Garden when I was a street performer and order sausage, egg and chips anytime I wanted to. That was actually slightly, that was making it for me, because I was making, I was doing decent shows, and I could go in, I go, sausage, egg and chips please, and I just wouldn't care.
Any time, what time of day are we talking about here? Like, well, could you do it like 2 a.m. in the morning?
No, it's not that I would force them to open the shop and cafe, and so just the fact that I had enough cash to do that, because earning, that's all I ever wanted to do, was to earn a living from what I was doing. And that was the tricky thing. So Madison Square Garden was beautiful, and I felt that everyone in New York who'd ever seen a show that I'd done came to that gig. And so that was, it's a beautiful gig, and I actually got nervous. I tried not to get nervous. I think nervous is pointless. But Madison Square Garden. Can I show this little picture,
because I just did a screen grab here of you on my laptop. So there's this picture here, and you're holding the mic, and you've just said, "Good evening, New York." What was going on? What was going on up there that moment?
It was all fine. It was Madison Square Garden, but just, I think as the tape goes on, I go, actually, I'm a bit nervous, and I just don't do that. I just don't want to get nervous, because I just don't think you do good comedy. So I think there was a slight rush that came in after. I mean, normally going on in arenas is kind of crazy. Hollywood Bowl is also the same feeling. First time I played Wembley was great. But France, the Olympia in France, 2,000-seater, all in French. Edith Piaf would play there, Jacques Brel, David Bowie, Jimi Hendrix, and I was doing it all in French. So
you just reeled off these major venues. Do you not at any point just go, "What am I doing here"?
No, because I always wanted to do them. I didn't know I was going to be doing it stand-up. I didn't know I might be doing it in another language, because I always thought I was going to be a sketch comedian like Monty Python. They were my big heroes. So that's what I wanted to do, and I never thought I'd be a stand-up. I just thought I couldn't do that. So that is the unusual, weird thing.
Well, Eddie, and of course, in looking at how far you've come, you have to recognize where you started. So there's a comment from our community. This is on Facebook. Monique writes in, "While traveling, you most probably have been probed by immigration when they glanced at your passport and they saw your country of birth. Is there any particular occurrence that stands out?" So, of course, explain for our audience where you were born.
I was born in Aden in Yemen, which the British called Aden, but it's really Aden. Aden, I think, is the more Arabic pronunciation. I am going to learn Arabic, and my main ambition is to get back to Aden and do a gig there in Arabic, and be able to play there, but it's too tricky at the moment. But anyway, so I have an immigration going through. I've got 2 Zs in my name, and Al Jazeera's got a few Zs. I mean, Arabic puts Zs in there, which, even though they're written differently. And so they used to pull me aside, the British and the Americans. There were, it was before 9/11 and after 9/11. Before, the British would pull me over and say, "Izzard," I wasn't known. Then I would go through immigration, wearing heels and makeup, and then they'd think, well, he's probably not a terrorist. That's that's not going to happen. So it got easier. But there was a time when I was constantly being pulled over for that. And even when I went back with my dad to Aden, I actually got pulled over at that point. That was for something else. I decided I'd film everything coming out in the airport. I just thought, first time back since I was a kid, I'll just film every single thing. And then some plainclothes guy, who I think was just a guy, he was going off on me, and I thought, oh yes, it's a secure thing, and airports are, all right. And so I switched it off. Sorry, it's off. Do you want to? I could delete it, So. It was a big to-do. Just as I arrived, I thought, I'm going straight to prison. I've only just arrived in Yemen. But it was okay, and suddenly the guys in uniforms, they were going, "Rrr," and the guy in the plain clothes, he was going off, and then he just said, "Nah, forget it." And then that was it.
I love that story. And so now I want to go to our hangout for a question for another story. Nisma, let's go to you. You're a stand-up comedian yourself.
Yes, I am. I was wondering what it was like for you when you were starting as a comic. Did you have to participate in a lot of bringer shows?
In kind of a lot of what, bring shows?
Bringer shows where you have to bring your friends.
We don't have those. That's a purely American thing. It's actually a rock and roll thing, and it's
interesting.
It's interesting. In rock and roll in Britain, they do that. You have to come. How many people can you bring? Whereas in comedy, we kept our comedy accidentally. We didn't have the boom and the bust of the '80s years, where everything was franchised, and a lot of good comedians that got sucked up into television and film. That didn't really happen. We have very little film industry, so everything is compressed. There's a lot of touring happens in Britain. We've got 60 to 80 clubs in London, and so there's never been a bringer show, as far as I know, in Britain. I could be wrong on that. So yeah, you just turn up and you get door splits, and so yeah, they're actually paying places. They're not even, there's no showcase venues either. So it's just a different gig there. And London for me was what Hamburg was for the Beatles. Hamburg, they could do 6-8 hour shows. We didn't have that, but you could do 4 to 5 shows every Friday and Saturday, 4 to 5 shows in a night, just by zooming around in a taxi and doing multiple gigs. So it gave me just this wealth of experience. And it was tough. The beginning is tough, but it gets better. Yeah. It's like driving a car. I call it like driving a car. You know, initially driving a car is impossible, and then easy, and then then you can have a chat for 3 hours, and you don't even notice what you've been doing, and you know, you think, I wasn't quite watching everything, you know, and how did I have this conversation?
See, Eddie, when you're just talking and when you're on stage, you just mention the fact, just very casually, that you're transvestite. It's just really ordinary. It's no big deal. I'm just going to show a little clip from Force Majeure again, just so people can hear how you talk about your lifestyle and how it's no biggie.
In Wembley, I went to see Jesus Christ Superstar, and it's a musical, and I don't know musicals. I am an action transvestite. I don't know what they are on about. I know action movies. I know Die Hard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is it? Terminator 1, 2, 3, 4. I know those films. I put on makeup, I go out and I fight things. Not actually, but in my mind, you know. Lipstick everywhere. You know the problems.
It's just, you're very comfortable with it. And I know that there was somebody at the audience last night and they watched the show and went home and put a video comment out for us. Malika,
they did. I'll play that for you here. This is a member of the audience, if I may mention. Have a listen.
All right.
In your DC show tonight, you talked about hiding your transvestism from your stepmom when you were a lot younger, but obviously now you're more public about it and outspoken. So could you talk about that process of coming out and finding the self-confidence to be more public?
Yes, indeed. All LGBT people, I'm dyslexic, so I sometimes call it LG. I get the T and the B ran the wrong way, and sometimes I call it LGBGT, like an MGBGT, which was a car back in the 60s in Britain. And you've got to come out. Everyone's got to come out. People who don't come out, they sometimes end up in the Republican Party and putting laws in to constrict people who are LGBT, which is the insanity of being in the closet. And it'll happen in the Tory Party in Britain as well. You need to be out. You need to come out as soon as you can. Get out in your teenage years. It is your knight's Arthurian quest deal. That's what you have to face down the fear of it. Fear management. That's what you just have to. You have to just get out there. You have to try and link up with other people who are positive and out. It's a tricky old thing to do. I didn't do it till I was 23. I say do it in your teenage years, but I didn't do it till I was 23. I first told someone when I was 21. It's a tough old thing, but you've got to get your look, working out your look together. You know, like young women will be putting on makeup and heels and whatever, and they will say, does this work? And their girlfriends, maybe some of their boyfriends, some of their gay boyfriends will be saying, actually that doesn't work, you should change that, that's too much, tone that down, you can't wear that. And the trouble with a lot of people who are transgender, transvestite, they will get the look wrong, and they never get the look right because they never really come out. They sort of come, some people come half out or whatever it is, and you've got to try and choose a job for your life where it's going to be either easier for you to wear what you want, the creative areas, or if you're going to be an accountant, I think the time is ready now to be a transvestite and be out as a transvestite and be an accountant and be a lawyer. But what you have to do is be brilliant at that. That's what I'm trying to do in my creative thing. I'm trying to be as good as I possibly can, so that they don't say, oh, he's a professional transvestite, he's getting further on his career just because he put makeup on. Because people did think that initially. Oh, you put some lipstick on and therefore that's why you're getting all this attention. But I'd already was taking off as a stand-up before I told everyone back in Britain.
I know the community are chomping at the bit, but just give me a tiny little thing, because you're talking about getting the look right. Is your look the way that you want to loove right now?
Well, it's definitely better than it was when I first came out. Yeah, it's kind of subtle, and I am a blokey shape, and but I've got this girly thing genetically going on.
Show us your nails. Dave, come up and check out Eddie's nails.
I don't really like sort of waving nails about that.
Just hold them out like that, and Dave will come to you and talk us through them if you don't mind.
Well, I'm a British European transvestite. It says 3 political things in 10 fingers. So So that's it. So the European flag there, British flag there, and I'm British European, like you can be an African American, Italian American, Asian American. So why not British European, Français, en Français Européen, or Deutsches Europäische? You can be these things. You can be two things at once. You can support the England football team. You can support Great Britain in the Olympics, and you can support the European Ryder Cup team when they play against America in golf. So you can do all these things, and it's not a problem.
Right.
Well, I want to go to an Iranian American. Zahra, in our hangout, go ahead.
Hey.
Hello.
Eddie, I am a San Francisco-based Muslim feminist Iranian American comedian, soon to be also an accountant.
Wow.
And I was wondering, has there ever been a topic that you've wanted to address or play with that you just could not find a comedic angle around?
Not really a topic. I mean, I was going to talk about Easter Island. It's not really a topic. It's just I thought the fact that they built 887 huge heads, huge ginormous heads, which I think about 10 meters high. I just wanted to be at the town meetings, the council meetings, when they're saying, okay, we've got nothing on Easter Island and no one's coming here, so let's build a head. What do you mean build a head? I was thinking of a big head, huge head, looks like the eagle from the Muppets, and it's about 10 meters high, and we just do one of those, one big head, and then everyone say, you've got one enormous head on your island, let's go and see Easter Island. And I thought this would be interesting.
Ridiculously funny.
Well, I thought it would be, but it's every time I try it in the stand-up, it doesn't really get there. It's kind of curious, because then there was another one. There must have been a thing when they had 427 heads. We got 427. This is getting out of hand. How many? What? Well, the council said we need just three more. Why three? And I keep thinking this is, and it works quite well as a topic in a chat show, but when I get it on stage, I can't get it working. And I've tried it numerous times, and I've dumped it. It's not in force majeure, but it was. But I just think, and when did they stop? Why did they stop at 887? Someone would have said, do 888, do that. And then someone said, no, that's the number of the devil. I said, no, that's not the number, that's 666. No, 666 could be, the number of the devil could be 999, depends which way you look at it. And then, but it should work, but I can't get it working.
You had me at big head.
Yeah.
See, Malik and I were trying to tell jokes that you told last night, and it was impossible.
They don't work.
And the reason we were like, there's not an actual, this happened, boom, boom. And I'm going to show our audience who haven't seen you perform live exactly what I mean. So this again is from your current production.
Right.
And just have a look at this. You actually even reference how difficult it would be to maybe tell an Eddie Izzard joke. Check it out.
As a performer, you need to have an ego. I need to bound on stage and say, 3 men went into a pub: Englishman, Irishman, Scotsman, Welshman, Chinese man, Venezuelan man, Burgundian crossbowman, 2 kippers, a banana, and a helicopter went into a pub. And the landlord said, what the f***? It's an Izzard joke. I'm not serving the helicopter. You
How could that work? It's all bleeped out. It's not even bleeped. You do that American thing of the silence thing. And so if that's the joke, everyone's going, what did he say?
But
I obviously swear.
It's an Eddie Izzard joke. It's like,
that was just, it's just because I was being postmodernist with this structure.
Right.
Just saying lots of weird things go to a pub and do nothing.
Your process, how do you put together a new show? How do you write something that just as you seemingly just chatting and riffing and going off?
It started work in progress. I was doing 2 shows nightly for about 3 months in LA, San Francisco, and New York.
Right.
So that's what I did. And I just go on and I do the old show that I've had already. It was just stripped, the previous show, and then I go around and I talk about Easter Island, and I couldn't get that going, and I talked about stuff and smoking pipes and people on crack saying, maybe this is the crack talking. I remember when that happened. Maybe this is the crack talking, but shouldn't we set fire to our knees now? And do people on crack ever say that? And so I just find things out. I find most stuff on the stage. That's the weird thing.
Really?
That's my writing.
You're just improving.
Yeah, because
not just improving, but you're improving.
I'm not very good at writing the stuff.
Wow.
I think my brain goes too fast for if I was doing this, then I was walking down the street, and I can't get it out. Whereas I'm walking down the street, so a cat's coming up to me, and I give him a $5, and he says, "What's this for?" And I say, "I don't know, for being a cat." And he says, "Well, I can't. What can I do with it? I haven't got a thumb. I can't really hold it." So I just go around it, and then if no one reacts, I think, well, this is obviously they don't like cat stuff. Don't talk about cats.
You're doing this during the show. You are trying out material that you just thought up, actually live on a stage.
Yes, well, the stuff in every show, there was a thing about the sharks, which was actually back referencing, I think I said Inglourious, which was all about, they had Lassie, the story of a dog, and they had a dolphin called Flipper, and all these ones, and a kangaroo, but they never had Sharky, the friendly shark.
Right.
And I ad-libbed that on the night, and it ended up in the video, and it was going, Sharky, it's going, and it's going, what are you saying here, Sharky? What, some kids have fallen out of a boat? What's going on? What have you, that's not good, Sharky, what have you done? They're all dead now, aren't they? See? Sharky, the friendly shark. And I said, who's not that friendly? That was the... And I said, no one has television programs like that, because sharks are just seemingly horrible. They're 200 million years, and they haven't evolved in 200 million years. Do you know that? That's an interesting thing.
They've just... that joke, of course. I think that joke helped a little bit.
No, I think they're still evil... I don't know, evil bleeps. Yeah. Yes, that's what we're
Well,
trying
Eddie,
to say.
I will say these are the reasons why our audience, why we love you. On the other hand, of course, there's politics, and that has a couple of what's a more polite way to say haters coming out of the woodwork. So I want to read you this Facebook comment. This is Martin on Facebook. He says, Eddie, you're a hero of mine for a number of reasons. However, I'm for Scottish independence, and it's nothing against our English brethren. We just want a fairer, more equal society, however much it costs. Now, of course, the streams did a show on the referendum for upcoming referendum for Scottish independence, so you can check our website for that. But I want to go to our hangout for someone else who has a question on that. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, Eddie, I can see the emotional and sentimental argument for Scotland being part of the UK, but it doesn't always feel very together. And I think at the moment we're seeing a massive inequality gap between what is essentially a lot of London and the rest of the UK. How do you reconcile that?
Well, on the question of the referendum, I'm totally for the referendum. I think it's democracy in action, and if Scotland chooses to separate, I think that is brilliant. Go for it, be happy. I just want Scottish people to be happy. But I do think full devolution, correct me if I'm wrong, but full devolution, nearly all the powers going to Scotland hasn't happened yet. And I wonder why that isn't on the cards as being chosen in the referendum. The choice of that.
I think one of the problems is it's at the mercy of Westminster. Basically, that's like a legislation, so they could take that away at any time. I think the difference with independence is it's vested within the Scottish people in the Scottish country, so we wouldn't have that hanging over us. We would actually have our own control.
Well, you know, I see both sides of the argument, but I do know that a lot of people who are negative, you're putting this question to me very reasonably, but there's some people online who are coming out with a lot of strong, vociferous feeling, and so some people who are for union, some Scottish people I've talked to, they're not saying anything because they feel that they better just back off because there's too much hate going to come in their direction. So I just thought, as a member of the UK family, I should go up, and I went up and I did this gig, and I just said, please don't go, because I'm arguing from an English perspective, but as someone who's played nearly every town and major town and city in Scotland and run 8 marathons through Scotland with the Scottish flag, that I am someone who does care about Scotland, and I do want you to be happy. And I know if it comes right down to the wire, it could be that just over 50% of the people will be saying, yeah, let's separate, and just under 50 might be saying, well, let's stay, or it could be a different vote. I don't know how the vote will go, but I just felt it needed to be said. The other side needed to be said, so that's why I said it.
Eddie, we've got 1 minute left. Chris, hold tight, because we're going to take you all to the post-show, so just hold that thought for a moment. We've got 1 minute left on this main part of the show. Okay. I want to ask you about 2020. What are you going to do? I hear you're interested in politics.
No, I've already said I'm running. It's either Member of Parliament or Mayor of London in May 2020. There'll be both elections will be at the same time.
There's a big difference between an MP and a Mayor of London. Why are you juggling both?
Because it depends who wins the election in 2015, the general election. From that, we'll see who's going to choose to run for Mayor of London in 2016. If there's a sitting Labour mayor who says, I'd like to, I've done one good term and I would like to do a second good term, it seems a bit crazy for me to come in and say, I wish to.
Sure, so it's just political strategy as to which one
it's just political logic, really. Right. I will need to wait to see who is the active mayor in 2016.
All right. You were asked if you ever had a campaign slogan. You said, I don't have a campaign slogan, I have a life motto.
Yes.
Can we end on that? What is it?
Well, it's if you shoot for the stars, you can reach the moon. That was my thing. I was very influenced by Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin going to the moon, and so I just think it's a beautiful idea of dream large.
Eddie Izzard, Oh, you have to go to the online post show, stream.aljazeera.com. We have not finished the conversation yet. I do have time to tell you about our next AJ stream. Will Mount Everest's deadliest accident change the value of Sherpa life? Big conversation for Monday. Thanks for watching. Hello again, this is the Stream's online post show. We're carrying on our conversation with the British comedian and actor Eddie Izzard and aspiring politician as well. What was there where if you walked away from the studio and we didn't talk about, what would you be like, oh, why didn't I talk about that?
Well, I think this, I need to say, I'm doing this historical facts competition for the tour. If people go to eddyizzard.com, all the cities that I'm playing across America, in this part, this is the part one of America tour, and if people have interesting historical facts from those countries and they post them with hashtag Eddie Izzard Tour on it, then the best 3 from each city I will be posting. I've already posted 2 from Washington out there, and then Philadelphia, and so we'll be going to do that as we're going around the tour.
Nice.
And that's a fun thing. People are finding out historical facts, because I think I've come up with a theory, which is history plus the change in society multiplied by the change in technology equals the future. You can study the past and see what we keep screwing up on and failing at, and maybe succeeding at as well. And those, if we pick up those repeats of humanity, factor in the change of society and then the change of technology, you should be able to predict the future and hopefully head it off away from fascism and head it towards a more moderate future.
Is that why history plays such a big role in your comedy? I found myself yesterday learning a lot, actually, and that doesn't always happen at a comedy show. And so you mentioned several times you guys will go home and Wikipedia this, and Femi and I laughed. Well, I actually did go home and Wikipedia
the Battle of Alesia. Battle of Alesia is the one. It is one of Caesar's greatest battles, but he was a not nice person. We can't swear on this, can we? He was, I think it's 1 million killed in Gaul and 1 million put into slavery. That's what it is, basic pure fascism. And so 40 of his guys took him out, including Trebonius, who I played in the Julius Caesar version of Caesar. And Trebonius was a cavalry officer, and he took him out at the end as well. 40 guys said, you have gone too far, and there is no political system here to stop you being... He was dictator for life at this point. So they decided, well, you're going. So that was back in the day.
So I'm sitting here watching you and listening to you, and I'm enthralled, and I'm just thinking, what politician actually has your persona? How are you going to make that transition? Are you going to retire at 2020 and then just do politics?
Yeah, I have to put my career into hibernation, so it sort of goes away into deep hibernation and sits there.
So you'd never be, say, if you were MP for whatever borough, you'd be in the House of Commons and you'd start riffing, that those thoughts go through your head. You wouldn't do that?
In a political thing, you can say, you know, and politics has to use to tear down. I'm quite positive about what can be created. And, you know, whatever happens in the Scottish referendum, I think it's, well, for people wouldn't see it positive either way, but I genuinely want Scottish people to be in as good a place as they can get to, you know. I'm not someone, I don't like centrism, you know. I think devolution was a great idea, the fact that they have their parliament again. So
why are you even qualified, though, to not only speak about Scotland but also to represent people politically? Am I
qualified?
Yeah.
Well, is anyone qualified? It's until election you're not qualified. I mean, I think you've got, I think, judge my life so far. You know, if running 43 marathons and raising money for that, if doing gigs in 4 languages, and trying to be positive, and having an open mind, and telling everyone I was a transvestite when I was 23, if those positive things, which I think are positive, add up to a hill of beans, then vote for me in 6 years' time. And if not, then don't vote for me. It's a free country. You know? But we still haven't got one question. There's a question from the gentleman.
You're right, exactly. So moving this from politics back to your process. Michael, you have a question in our hangout. Go ahead.
Yes. I feel that storytelling can be one of the most effective methods for communicating important and potentially difficult ideas. How do you see your background as a storyteller, as both a performer and an actor and a writer, benefiting you as a politician and dealing with the obstacles you'll encounter in that arena?
Well, that is an amazing question. I'm not sure, but they do, you know, in politics there is a narrative that each party is trying to have their own narrative and drive it forward, and then, you know, opposition are trying to push a different narrative onto that. So I suppose you do want to put forward a story, a vision of where you feel the country or the people that you represent can go, or Europe as a continent can go. And I do feel, you know, stories resonate. You go back to Mr. Jesus, whose real name was Yeshua, who I don't believe was the Son of God, but was just some bloke, but did some amazing stuff, and he would talk in parables, and these parables were interesting stories that could actually teach you something from it. So I do think there is definitely something in there. I'm not quite sure. I haven't yet, you know, done major speeches in politics. I've done a few, but definitely you want to have something that resonates. I do find that in political speaking, if you do number crunching, people really switch off quickly. They want to see passion and vision, and you try to head in that direction. So yes, that will factor in. I will see how it will play out. But
do you think that your charisma will benefit, your ease in talking to people will benefit you going forward?
I think, well, hopefully it would benefit me. Hopefully it wouldn't be a hindrance. He's so easy to talk to. We hate him. Let's vote against him. That would no. I'm trying to, you know, I want to try and stay as real as possible. But when you get into politics, if you're not Mayor of London, if you're in the team of Westminster or the politics, or I suppose if you're even in the Scottish National Party, if we're talking about the Scottish referendum, in that team, then you've got to be following what Alex Salmond is driving, and
Alex Salmond leads the
Scottish National Party for the referendum, and you know, you have to sort of follow one direction. If everyone's firing off in different directions, the public goes, well, what do you stand for? Because you seem to be firing off in different directions. So you actually might think, you know, a few degrees to the left or to the right of an idea, but you've got to try and match up, you know, politically in the media. Otherwise, the media will tear you apart. They will tear you apart.
They really will. You know, Eddie, you mentioned charisma a little bit earlier, and ease of talking to people, and part of that is speaking their language. Now, yesterday in the comedy show that we watched, Femi and I, you spoke several languages. So there's one person on Twitter, Heather. She says, you've rekindled her interest in language. I took French in school, and now she's even more interested. And that leads to a question from Alexandra, who wants to know, how is it different to be funny in French versus Russian?
No difference. I haven't done it in Russian yet, but I've done French, German, and I've started doing it in Spanish. I've done 15 minutes in Spanish. Zippity-doo-dah difference. Basically, there is no national sense of humor. There is no American sense of humor, no British sense of humor, no Russian sense of humor. What there is a mainstream sense of humor in every country, and a more alternative sense of humor in every country. Just like there are mainstream musicians who play to a mainstream audience around the world who will like their songs with their positive chord progressions, and then the more alternative musicians who have listened to a lot of music and then have gone into more different melodic and non-melodic type of progressions of music, and that alternative audience is in every country. So I'm just mixing up and matching up and trying to link up, that's the better word, with the audiences who like Monty Python, who might like The Simpsons, and they exist in every country of the world, every developed country of the world. I suppose developing countries still trying to, you can't get alternative humor in developing countries, I don't think, because they're just trying to get on their feet. So that's my logic.
70th anniversary of D-Day,
yes.
Normandy.
Yes.
You are doing something where I just thought, how are you going to do that? Share that with our audience. Well,
I'm very positive. I'm slightly encyclopedic on World War II and a lot of military history. American Revolutionary War and Civil War I know a lot about. And so I go every 5th anniversary. I make sure I'm there. I try to go to quite a lot of the anniversaries of D-Day, but I'm going to be going to there with a salute to what Russia did. And Russia isn't part of the D-Day thing, but they did an amazing thing in that Second World War. Without the Russians, we would not have won the Second World War. That is just definite. But I'm going to go to the D-Day landings, and I'm going to get there, and I fly out of the tour, American tour, from Chicago. I get to Paris, drive up on the morning of the 6th, get there about 11 a.m. I will go to some of the events, and then at 7 p.m. I will do a gig in German, 8 p.m. a gig in English, and then 9 p.m. I'll do a gig in French, of force majeure, 3 gigs in 3 languages in 3 hours. And that's I'm going to make donations to Médecins Sans Frontières and Help for Heroes and American and Canadian charity as well. And I'm just going to do that. And I think hopefully that 70 years before, people fighting in that war, in that battle there that went on, and maybe even some German people who would have thought, I think Hitler's an idiot, but I have to do this because it's my country, they would have thought it positive. There's some idiot's going to turn up 70 years later and do gigs in 3 languages saying, we're in a much better place now, aren't we, guys? And it's a salute to Germany as well for what they've done since 1945, trying to be an exemplary country and making democracy work with a great economy. Because that's what Hitler kept saying. He says democracy doesn't work, you can't have a good economy, and Germany has proved you can. Good democracy and a good economy. And so it's a salute to us, to everyone fighting for humanity.
Since you're a history buff, there's one question here on Twitter. Are you going to any U.S. Civil War battle sites?
I'm trying to go to Gettysburg tomorrow. So there you go.
Thank you.
We visited Shiloh in 2008, which is where Ulysses S. Grant first had his, well, it was about his 3rd major victory. It was a big victory. He actually lost the first day. It was the one where he stood under a tree and Sherman came up to him and said, well, we had the devil's own day today, didn't we, Grant? And Grant said, yeah, but lick 'em tomorrow, he said. So it was the time when Grant was, and then after that, because a lot of people died in that battle, and they were hellish battles, but in the end, Lincoln realized he was the general who should run the whole of the federal forces, the Union forces, and in the end, that war was won. But still, you know, for black people, it's another 100 years before the civil rights legislation. I just saw the LBJ play All the Way with Bryan Cranston, fabulous performing by Bryan Cranston, and that's very interesting, fighting tooth and nail to try and get the civil rights legislation passed. So.
Right. Have you ever had your IQ tested?
I did at school, and it was sort of nowhere interesting. And then
really?
And then I had it later.
I think you need to recount.
Well, I had it later, and it was much higher. It was up in the 140 or something. I don't know, but I don't know if it's really a. I just take a lot of stuff in and try, and then use my brain to filter it and try and come out with ideas, you know. And in politics, some people will totally disagree with you. You know, Europe is very contentious in Britain, but I think if Europe doesn't work, then the world will not work. The continents have got to learn to work together in some shape or form. And if we run away and hide from it, we're just going nowhere. We've got to try and come together. Even Scotland, if they do pull out, they want to be part of Europe. So this is an important thing.
All right, Eddie Izzard, we haven't done this before. We've never had an audience here before, but I feel that the Hangout is going to give you a standing ovation. I hear a lot of noise coming from the crowd off Malika and I.
I don't think standing ovation is the right thing.
We salute you.
I
nice
salute
job.
everyone.
Thank you very much. We loved having you. All right, thank you to the Google Hangout, to Chris, to Nizma, to Zara, and also to Michael, and to you for watching. On Monday, will Mount Everest's deadliest accident change the value of a Sherpa life? That is a big question, but it's a big question and discussion for our Monday show. Until then, we'll see you online. Take care.